Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cultivating Conversations. I'm Tisha Newby, and today we're talking about cultivating talent. So, whether you're ready to hire your first employee or you're looking to grow your team, we know that making the right hire is going to be everything. And so, I am excited to have our guest today, Autumn Johnson, with us. Autumn is an experienced talent acquisition professional. She's worked with businesses of all sizes to really help them find and hire the best talent. So, Autumn, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course. Well, we are excited to have you. So I know, that small business owners often feel like they're really climbing a mountain here, right? When it comes to hiring, it's tough, especially in this market. So for our small to mid-sized businesses, who are competing with larger companies that have those big budgets, what do you recommend or what do you see, right, as maybe some of those biggest challenges that they're facing when they're trying to hire?
I mean, you said it initially is that the budgets can make a big difference. What they say, you got to spend money to make money, but your money's tied up in all the other things that help keep your business operational and trying to get it to a more profitable status. Um, you don't have to spend a lot of money to find people, but sometimes you have to be really creative and unique in finding the right people, and that's what's more valuable. Some other challenges that you deal with as a small business is your time constraints. Depending on the size of your business, everybody's function is valuable to the day-to-day operations. And so even finding the space to present that your company is hiring and do the interview process and things like that can affect the services that you ultimately produce or the product that you produce in order to again keep your company running and keep it profitable. Big companies have big names. That goes back to the budget and the marketing. People are aware of the major employers in town, but less so aware of the small businesses within our communities that keep our communities vital and going and things like that. So getting your name out there, which again is the marketing aspect, and then can be affected by the budget that you have in order for people to consider you as a viable job option.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, when we think about, limited budgets, limited time, and sometimes even just limited experience to this process, right? It makes
Hmm.
it very challenging for us. And so you talked about the value proposition, right? How the business can set themselves apart, right? And how they show the value to really attract kind of the right people without having to spend tons of money. So what recommendations do you have for small business owners if they're trying to make sure they put themselves out there around that marketing space and really branding their company as a place that people want to know about or really should come work for?
Yeah, it definitely takes some creativity, and it also kind of goes back to how did you get your business marketed in the first place? Getting it out there to attract your patrons is going to be the same or similar methods to getting attracting talent. And again, you're probably only needed to hire maybe one or two people to get you through a peak season, or maybe it is for you're at an expansion point, and so you should really look at what did you do initially to get your business off the ground and turn that around and apply it to how you're going to add additional team members to your organization as well, in this growth aspect that you're going through. Um, so that's something that's the first thing to look at is how did I get this off the ground as a business. Let's look at that in getting my hiring off the ground. It definitely helps to work with a professional sometimes. So there are staffing firms, there are consultants that you could probably find at varying budget points that could help and support you. But one thing you want to have when you go to approach these individuals or businesses services, um, is to have a plan in place before you walk in, for what you're looking for and what you need. Be open to listening to them and their suggestions, definitely, but maybe do like an interim introductory call or meeting, learn more about how they work and operate, then see how that factors into what you're looking for and what you need, and then go back and explain, have a better explanation for what you're going to need and stuff like that. Because, you know, um, again, there's a lot of great resources out there, a lot of great professionals, but sometimes they can fly off the handle. Sometimes they can not be attuned to your needs. Sometimes their process could blow out your budget unexpectedly, and you don't want that. So, definitely take a lot of organization and planning into the hiring or, the hiring process and things like that so that you get what you need and you get what you want.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that. I love that you said, think about how you marketed your business in the first place, right? Because I think sometimes
Mhm.
we can overcomplicate things, right? We think we
Yeah.
have to have some huge separate process, some new way of getting people to find out about our opportunities and come work for us. But I think that's such a great, just tangible thing that folks can do is really think about like how are you marketing your services now, right? And trying to
Mhm.
tie in just the need for talent in the same way. And I love the tip about making sure you have a plan, right? Because I mean, I think with anything, as you're evaluating consultants or vendors, right, you want to make sure that you have an understanding of really like what you need and what you're looking for, so that you don't get too far off track based on maybe something that they're recommending that you do. And so, even with that, as we talk about going into working with a firm or starting this process, what are some things that, small businesses need to know or should be doing around actually just screening candidates?
Sure. Again, that goes back to the planning process. Nobody knows your business like you do or what you're looking for. So again, look at your organization, look at what the day-to-day duties and responsibilities are going to need to be for this role or what you need this person to come in and be able to do for you. And just, line out your questions and what experience they need to have around that. And that should be like your non-negotiables. One of the things that you're going to find, especially as a small business, is that, so you're marketing or looking for, you're hiring and you're marketing to people that you're hiring, whether it's through your networking opportunities, you're at the PTSA meeting, you're at the
Mhm.
Chamber of Commerce meetings and things like that, even your church or what have you. You're speaking to your colleagues, friends, when you're in social events and stuff like that, say, hey, I need to add some more staff to my team. It might have been something that has come up abruptly, you got a major account, line of business you're trying to roll out, for the holiday season, whatever. One of the things you're going to find is, you might be prone or to getting referrals. And referrals in some aspects can be valuable, but they can also be challenge and a pain because sometimes, especially in those more casual environments where you are sharing that you're looking for some additional help and support, people are going to refer just about anybody to you. So if you don't know and can't give what's kind of a elevator pitch to what you have to have to people for the role, for the type of person you want to work with that you'd like to have referred to you, you're going to get a little bit of anything. You're going to get the new grad that's meandering or the non-grad who's meandering, the cousin that just moved to town and is looking, again, as I said earlier, maybe not the same people with the same insight or understanding of what your company does or the role, not the same passion, and things like that. So you definitely want to be prepared. Again, preparation is everything. And again, but it can happen at a drop of a hat that you need to hire, even with big businesses. You have walk-offs, you have strikes, stuff like that. You need people to fill in the blank. But yeah, you definitely need to understand what the role does so that when you say, hey, I'm looking for somebody who can operate this software and do this and that for my company, and be specific so that again you don't get just anybody thrown at you as a referral that you then have to, with that, social connection, have to kind of explain, well, they're not going to be the right fit, kind of, you know, having to, lay them up nicely, and it's coming up your process with that. It's going to come up the process. So
Right.
you definitely want to, be prepared, knowing what you need in the individual so that again when you're telling people, sharing, explaining in the social settings, that you get the type of referrals possibly that would be valuable, but also start to screen out what what's not going to work for you and stuff like that.
Well, Autumn, I think you made some great points there. I mean, talking about knowing what you need, right, and what you want
Mhm.
someone to do, kind of what is that true need for your business is going to be critical. And I know, nowadays ChatGPT is huge, right? And so a
Mhm.
lot of small business owners are using things like ChatGPT to help with job descriptions. Do you recommend that, or do you have other tips for, how can a business owner figure out what they even need in terms of being able to start to tell people about what they're looking for?
Sure, ChatGPT is a good resource. It's not something that I lean on personally. It's just not a tool that I'm comfortable, giving all of my, business and my ideas, pulling all that from there. But it definitely can be a great starting point for any individual working on something, just to kind of get a purview of what the AI system has learned going across the web, and access to information that, in a speedy amount of time that, you yourself either don't have the time to access and collate and things like that. So again, I know it's valuable. It's not a preferential tool of mine. Of course, working in the space I work in, I have access and knowledge to various other tools, so I can understand as a small business owner. Again, time is of the essence, as well as, being able to get some quality information back that you can implement, again, in a timely manner. So utilize the tool, but don't lean and depend on the tool is kind of my mantra about a lot of things, especially some of the
Yeah.
newer stuff that's out today.
And I think with AI too, you brought up a good point about how, when you, whatever you put in AI, especially like a platform
Mhm.
like ChatGPT, right? It's out there for the world. So being very mindful about, how specific you get, or how much information, how much of your business information, right? Like that you want to add into a system like that is now going to be available for, anybody to access and use in the future. So I think that's a really great point. So
True.
when we think about just, we've got the job posting out there, we're starting to get candidates. How do we know, the best questions to ask, or even what questions to ask to really try to get to the heart of like, is this person going to be, what I need from my business? Do you have any thoughts or tips around that?
Sure. Well, firstly, you want to be aware of legality and compliance and the type of questions that you're asking individuals that you're looking to hire. Even though you're a small business, whether you have 5, 10, or 50 people, you're still obligated to some of the equal employment organization requirements, and mandates for, speaking to individuals about hiring. You can't ask questions about, race, family composition, sexual orientation, things like that that are illegal to ask. So those are some of the first things that you would want to look into, ensuring that you're not compromising your organization away by asking discriminatory questions. The next thing, then other than that, then again, the preparation, you really need to look at your organization, what your role does, and ask the questions that will get you the answers that you need about a person's performance, under performance in the workplace, understanding about the role, maybe a little bit about your organization. Again, if you're a small business and not very well known in the organization, they might not know a lot about your organization, but definitely what your business does and function. If you're a small accounting firm, if you're a small florist, if you're a bakery shop, you want to talk to people that have some insight into that. Again, if depending on how you're hiring or why you're hiring, you may not have the bandwidth to train someone. So again, when I said earlier about you know having your what did I call it? Elevator pitch.
Mhm.
Knowing it's being specific about some details about what you're needing in a role. There are some non-negotiables. Like you got to be able to crack an egg if it's a bakery. You have to know QuickBooks if you're an accounting firm. So if there are non-negotiables, you need to stand on that.
Right.
The job market now is tough for everybody, and everybody's looking for a shot or a chance or different things like that. But again, if you don't have the bandwidth to train, if you need somebody who can step in and knows the software that your company is operating and have knowledgeable of dealing with clients and a certain aspect and stuff, those are the type of questions you need to ask, and those are the experiences from candidates you need to hear about, in order to assess if they're going to be quality fit for you.
Yeah, no, I think you make some really good points. That the employment law question always comes up
Hmm.
because I think, especially in more casual environments, right? It's
Hmm.
easy in the beginning when you're just meeting someone and you're like, oh, how are you doing? Where are you from? Where you live? You can very casually get into some of those questions, right? That might lead
Hmm.
you down a path of opening a door that you want to be mindful of. So I do think it's
Right,
it's
put you in a
very
red zone. Yeah.
yeah, you have to prep for that, right? You kind of got to be
Hmm.
prepared. What do I want to ask, and make sure that you kind of have some structure to your interview process, even if it's a very casual environment, right? Because you just
Right.
don't want to
Right.
end up in a position where you've said something that you didn't intend, and now it's going to have some negative effects. And then the other thing you said about bandwidth, oh, that is so important, right? Like I think it's very easy, especially as a new business owner, to want to take referrals, or maybe you have a colleague who their business is going well and they recommend someone, or they
Mm,
know someone, and you're just like, oh yes, right, this is my friend, or this is my colleague, they're going to recommend someone good to me. But if you don't have that time and bandwidth to really train them, you cannot, to your point, right, like do not give in on your non-negotiables, right? I think it's important
mm,
to have things like SOPs, and we're going to talk about that as well. But don't give in on those things that you need, right? Like there are going to be those
yeah,
basic things that people just have to know to be successful. And I mean, it not only is it not helpful to you, it's not helpful to that person, right? Because then they're going to come in that environment and may not be as successful, right? And just can
yes.
kind of create some negativity around the whole experience. And so that kind of leads me to thinking about, once you've gone through your process, you found your person, you're ready to, you hire them, and like now you have to onboard them into your organization, right? What
Mm.
can small businesses do to make sure that they're onboarding new employees in a way that kind of really sets them up for success? So that ultimately, it's a good fit for everybody, and it can be a good experience for everyone.
So you going into this question is definitely something I wanted to get on because even in larger corporate spaces, onboarding, I want to clarify or specify there's a difference between onboarding
Mhm.
and training. So a lot of organizations, what is it? Going back to what I said about people having people being a fit as far as skill sets and things like that. There are some non-negotiables going into certain business settings that people just have to have. Well, business settings, job titles, roles that they have to have, right?
Right.
Onboarding for me means you're bringing the person in and you're showing them, like you said, the SOP for our organization. For example, I'm an accountant, I have my CPA, that's a non negotiable. You don't have to train me on how to add and divide and subtract and do
Right.
accounts payable and accounts receivable and track the data spent on a budget and things like that. That is something that coming into a mid-level accounting role, an individual should have. Onboarding is showing them what where we file everything, what resources the organization has for them for different parts of their workday, um, how they handle their clients, getting them set up, to do the business of what they do, but not exactly, again, showing them the accounting process and what this is and ledgers and books and things like that. So sometimes in a small business setting, especially if your role is more service oriented, um, you know, individuals think that the onboarding process is the training process, but you might be in a specialized field or offer a specialized service where individuals might have to, already know the safety
Right.
protocols, OSHA protocols, different things like that. And again, that bandwidth option, you can't take a referral and turn them into what you need if you don't have the
Right.
bandwidth for it. So again, onboarding is not going to be sufficient. So onboarding versus training. So a lot of times, people apply for jobs, like I said, even in the corporate setting, but they have a basic understanding. They some people are very chatty. They can say the right things. They have an understanding, but once you get them in the application stage, you realize that they don't really know, the steps or can't conceptualize what needs to happen next, the process and things like that. And so you're sitting there wondering, well, I thought, we onboarded you, to know, and so you should know what you're supposed to be doing. But actually, they were going to need some additional training, and they're expecting training. And like I said, I've hit that sometimes in my own experience where I look back, I said, where in our job description did we say we were going to train? Where in
Right.
the interview process did I say that there was a training period? And then if you ask specific questions, again, ask about specific software, specific skill sets, specific experiences, those, give me an example of a time when, those
Right.
type of questions. What have you done in this type of situation where people have to share they've had a past experience in taking care of a certain problem or issue and things like that. Once you get into that space and you realize this person doesn't know, can you still work with that individual? Because again, like I said earlier, in a small business, every person's role is valuable. It has an impact and implication into the success of a business, delivery of the services, satisfaction of the clients. And if you've hired an individual that needs additional training versus just onboarding, and learning, hey, this is where we keep the files on the accounts, this is where we do this, this is our weekly process for, we have meetings on this day, we deal with this for this many hours a week, we expect this, those things versus, so let me teach you how to cold call. So let me
Right.
teach you how to go out and find
Right.
business, how we do. That's two different things. So be prepared in your interview process, to really differentiate between a candidate that you'll just be need to onboard and they can hit the ground running versus
Right.
somebody that you might have to train, and do you have the bandwidth for that. Also, the training process, again, having to train someone can hem up and affect the morale and effectiveness of your current employees. We see it again in the corporate setting. Sometimes somebody gets the referral and they hire a friend of a friend who, in most aspects, especially in white collar settings, people could eventually learn different aspects. I'm a recruiter in talent acquisition, but I could learn accounting because I've dealt with budgets and things like that. With a little tweaking in a couple of months, I could do that. I have a bachelor's degree. I've dealt with budgets. So like you can. People are fluid. People can
Right.
learn. People can evolve. But again, in that immediate setting, when it's end of the month, account reconciliation, get these invoices out to the client so we can get paid, and you've got somebody that has been with you, a dedicated employee, a year or two, and they're stressed and overworked. We brought on this much business. It's not the same. Bringing in somebody that you now have to train, or heaven forbid, you try to push off on them to train in the midst of this, is not going to go very well for you in the long term.
No, you're you're absolutely right. And I mean, I think, one of the themes that keeps coming up in this conversation is like time can be of the essence, right? Like time is
Mhm.
money. And, if you have to spend your time with additional training, especially for some of those basic things that you expect people to come in with, then that's taking away from you as the business owner to be able to be creative, to be able to, maybe you're fundraising or you're just dealing with business development, right? Like the things that as
Mhm.
a business owner you need to do to kind of keep the business running. If you're having to spend that time, doing extra training and extra development for things that you expect somebody to come in with, right? Like that's not going to be helpful for anybody. So, I mean, thank you, Autumn. This has been
Mhm.
amazing. So, is there anything else that we didn't talk about, right, that you want to share with our community around this topic, recruiting? Anything else that you think they really need to know that we didn't get to talk about?
Sure. I want to talk a little bit about the candidate experience of the interview process. Um, once you've started to get people interested in your role and opportunity, maybe they've been walk-ins, they saw a job sign or anything, or you have used a digital service, or a job board and things like that to find candidates. And again, you want to bring these people in. You're seeing some good resumes. You've spoken to somebody who seems to have some insight into the industry, had a interest and would like to learn more and things like that. How are you going to get them hired? What are you going to do? And, obviously, like we said, getting prepared with, determining what type of questions you need to ask and need to have answered for you to feel comfortable with the individual in your workspace and things like that. But some things that I've also seen happen when hiring individuals is you also might want to plan when you're going to do these interviews, when and where, because doing them during business hours again can affect the workflow as far as getting clients taken care of and different things like that. Um, so that's something else that you need to consider. How and when are you going to do these interviews
Yeah.
so that your candidates have a good experience, so that you can be focused on that as well, and not have any interruptions, positive or negative, that could affect, from your employees to clients and things like that, that need to be assessed at the same time.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you mentioned that too, because we know,
Hmm.
I think the other thing we know is that individuals are going to talk, right? Your customers are going to talk
Yeah.
about your experience. Your applicants are
Right.
also customers too, right? People who are
Right.
interviewing with you, they're going to talk about that experience with you. And so we want to try to limit, any possible negative distractions or things that can kind of take away from really, having that time to engage with that person. So I think that is a great point. So, once we know kind of what we're looking for and, what type of role we need to hire, how do we find applicants? You have any additional thoughts about how we can find the right applicants?
Sure, sure. So as I've mentioned before, organization is really key in some planning. Um, and as I said before, also the way that you marketed your company is also the way you're going to probably want to try to market for applicants for your jobs, promote the opportunities that you have as you're growing and expanding. One of the simplest things you can do is to always at the end of your email signature include a link or some information to a job page. If your company already has a website, it doesn't take too much to add another landing page with the job descriptions, even if it doesn't take the applications directly. You haven't paid for that added service or anything like that. But as long as your contact information is there, the direct email to you, candidates, I'm gonna say honestly, if candidates can direct email you, that's even better. The ATS from as a corporate recruiter, everybody's fussing and complaining about that. If they can know or believe that this application is going direct to your inbox as a small business, that is so valuable for candidates. So even if you don't pay the upgrade on your website to take the take the links directly for them to be able to contact you directly through your email is great. So in all your email signatures, just add a hyperlink at the bottom saying we're hiring, we're
Mhm.
hiring for. And again, though, as I mentioned, you kind of probably want to be specific. So if there's a specific job title, so that people, not everybody is clicking, or that's people with the right skill sets that know what a accountant, a chief chef, a sous chef, things like that are does in the space, that you get those type of respondents. Where you're located at can be very valuable in helping you recruit candidates. So if you're in a strip mall or some other type of multi-business setting, maybe you guys can package together and do a hiring event on site. Other companies might have a need for individuals. So that's something that you can look at, and you can split the cost of radio and print ads, put a hiring banner out, just make it a whole event. But again, being specific about what you're looking for, if you post something in print or something like that, what job titles you're actively hiring for. Um, I gave a caveat about referrals, but at the same time, using those networks, alumni networks, your networking group, the Chamber of Commerce, things like that, still, to at least see what's out there. But
Yeah.
again, if you specify what you're looking for, what skill sets are valuable and things like that, it'll help narrow who responds, hopefully, for you. So don't be afraid to use your networks, just use them very, very targeted and very specifically for you.
And I love the idea that you gave a suggestion of like partnering with other small businesses. And I think that's something people don't think about, right? Like, we
Mhm.
are a community. And so if there are other small businesses who are also hiring, like banding together, even if it's virtually, right, to host a virtual event or an in-person, if you have a brick and mortar, an in-person event, I think that's a great way to not only leverage your network, but also theirs, right? And to be
Right,
able
right.
to share those resources with each other. So I think there's a lot of value in that community as well. So I love that.
And to that, you want to be, as I said, strategic and tactical in how you do that as well, because every year, all year, a couple times a year, your city and community are going to have some big job fair event at the
Mhm.
big stadium or something like that, and it's going to bring everybody to the table. But if you're really strategic, you can find some great talent, again partnering with the right organization. So again, if I own a pizza shop, I probably don't want to partner as much with the law firm down the street, you know. And the
Right.
same thing, they might not want to partner with me and they're looking for a legal assistant and stuff like that. So it might partnering with the right organization might elevate the type of talent that gets brought to the table in that
Yeah.
partnership, or make it not be the right skill set that you need. And that's, I can say, even myself personally, I don't like to go to the big job fairs unless I'm the one hiring there. But if I needed a job, I would not be at what, unfortunately, I in the industry sometimes we've rendered called the cattle call. But I've been to job fairs for specific industry events. They've been through the conferences that I participate in. I go to the ones that I've been to ones where I had to pay, and let me kind of specify that. I went to one when I first came out of school that was at the Indiana Pacers Stadium, because I'm from the Midwest originally, Indiana Pacers Stadium, and so I was actually paying for a ticket to the game that was going on because it was a game with somebody that wasn't a big team. So it was like a $20 ticket, and I would get to stay for the game. But the job was for all sales and marketing professionals
Hmm.
for the sports industry. So everybody, all the recruiters there were from other sports teams. So everybody there was new grads, recent grads, experienced salespeople for that profession. And so again, it was very targeted industry, very targeted niche, and more effective in its recruiting. And it didn't bring everybody because that $20 kind of locked some
Right.
people out.
Right.
Um, so
Right.
again, if you're strategic, do so, and that might be something you have to do is put a number, put some money behind it to attract the right type of talent to you.
Right.
And again, and if you're charging it, again, not something exorbitant, but that also could go to your marketing budget and things like
Right.
that. So organizations have done that before. I've experienced it, and I participated because it was the
Yeah.
right fit for me at the time. I'm a recruiter now, but sales is not far from recruiting. And that's another thing.
Right. And
Um,
that's something I never thought about before either, right? Around paying as an applicant, right? Because I think you just think, oh, you're just going to
you should
apply.
be paying me. Yeah, and again, like I said, the money actually went towards something else. They
Right.
didn't want random people in the stadium. They wanted to.
Right.
It was the ambiance of what the event was. Like it's a big basketball stadium. There was a game going on, and they didn't want
Right.
us slipping in, so we had to, so that like, again, if you think of it that way, so maybe there's some type of added value thing that comes.
Right.
There's a free lunch, like the people
Right.
selling you timeshares and stuff. And so there's something too that the money goes to, but
Yeah.
again, it narrows your field. It brings the right type of applicants to it. Those that are more serious in your space and things like that.
And I want to talk some free advertising.
Mhm.
Yes. So, I know in
Yeah.
previous HR roles, I've used things like what used to be Twitter is now X, and social media, right, to try to like highlight some of the roles. Just because it was cost effective, right? It's free. You can
Mhm.
you can post on Twitter and put your link in, and really anybody who's or X now, right? Anybody who's following you will see that information. Do you have other tips around like how to get the word out, right, about your job that are like low cost, or just not very expensive? Sometimes the job boards can be expensive.
The job boards can be expensive. There are some that are more cost effective. One that I really come to value when I've been recruiting in more of a high volume space, so more the manufacturing and e-commerce and call center sites and things like that, is a site called Better Team. I believe they have a package that is under $200 for one job posting. Now,
Okay.
and it's what I like about it is that when the resume comes back, it has all the contact information for the person. So it's not like I'm putting a job out there on Indeed and then only when you respond to me do I get your contact info.
Right.
This one, everything comes back first shot.
Okay. That's
So,
great.
and it's definitely more cost effective. Even their largest annual plan, I don't think is more than $2,000.
Okay.
And it distributes to a myriad of sites. So it's definitely been a valuable, budget-friendly resource in organizations where the budget definitely was an issue. Going back to what you mentioned about social media, that's definitely been a very valuable tool for organizations. I will say there's kind of it depends on what your company is,
Hmm.
how much you want to marry your marketing and your recruiting aspect on social media. For
Right.
example, I work for a media company, a major national TV a network for a while, and they did not let us post our hiring needs to their social media sites because every social media site was a marketing platform. And what I mean, not just for the newscast, but also a space where we sold space to advertisers. The
Right.
local car dealership for your TV station is using the TV station's
Right.
Facebook page or Twitter site, a TikTok page to market, to the people that are going to watch the newscast. So they didn't want
Right.
a job posting popping up behind it. Oh, by the way, the station's hiring.
Right. Right.
It was a little tacky at that level. But if you're a smaller business, you might have to, do that. Maybe once a week, maybe it's you know, work Wednesday, and this week, Wednesdays your posting is about that you're hiring, but the other 4 or 5 weekdays or the weekend. You're talking about the services you're offering, the clients you look, doing the business development. And maybe one day a week you focus on, hey, we're hiring just to get it out
Yeah.
there. So maybe you get married that way, but they didn't let us touch it. So we had to find other resources. And so to that, other low cost resources and social sites, again, the ones that are affiliated with your organization or company's industry,
Mhm.
those are usually very budget friendly. When I worked in marketing and advertising, as I kind of alluded to earlier with some of the job fairs, the local ad fed was something that I would target. There's a national org, but usually in each major city, there's a site that would share the jobs for the local marketing firms and different things in the area. And it would usually just be, $25, $50 for a month and things like that. So definitely looking at that online. Your alumni organizations and things like that, in the past they were kind of freebie, but now they're looking to, build revenue, things that can help their students and stuff like that. But even your high schools and things like that, if you, hire more entry level roles and things like that, sponsoring or being a vendor at events and things like that to get your name out there. I did recruitment marketing for the U.S. Army with one of my organizations, specifically for ROTC, which is college level. And so our target audience were high schoolers graduating as well as college students. And we definitely, put the Army's banners, flyers, put money into local high schools that fed into certain colleges and then the universities themselves. In the
Right.
staff, so yeah.
Thank you. You have dropped so much great information for us today. I'm so thankful that you took your time to be here with us. Can you tell people, how can they connect with you if they want to learn more or just be able to connect with you? How can people connect with you?
Sure, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Primarily, I'm not on a lot of social media pages, unfortunately, but I do reside on LinkedIn for business purposes, as well as I do have a website. I do offer career search and resume review services for individuals, as well as if you are a small business, but any business size, but if you are a small business and you're unfortunately on the other side of this equation, meaning you're unfortunately going to have to lay off some people, cut your staff, and things like that. I do offer career search packages for employers to offer offboarding employees. And so my website for that is ALJ Inc. That's ALJINC .setmore.com, and it'll connect you to my site for my company, my small business, ALJ Incorporated Consulting. And there you can find packages for resume review or career search support. And again, if you are an employer that, again, is unfortunately needing to restructure, I have a package there that you can offer your employees to help launch them out successfully into their job search, their unavoidable job search. So,
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And those are some amazing resources, Autumn. I mean, I love that you offer that, and I'm
mhm.
happy to connect the community with you as well. And of course, if you need, personalized HR support, don't hesitate to connect with us at Cultivate HR. We partner with other small businesses like Autumn, and we've got you covered. But before you
Mhm.
go, please make sure you take a moment to subscribe, leave us a review. Let us know what you thought about today's episode, and what else you'd like to hear us talk about. We've got some value coming your way. So we're really looking forward to keeping these conversations going. Thank you so much, Autumn, for really hanging with us today. And until next time.